grab your helmet and tighten your chin strap. This is the Lieutenant Stache podcast, the podcast built for firefighters by firefighters. Leadership, tradition, culture, and the hard truths that don't make it in the textbooks. Let's go to work. Well, welcome to the Lieutenant Stache podcast. This is going to be episode 7, and today we're interviewing Lieutenant Ledkins from the Longview Fire Department. Lieutenant Ledkins, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your department's like.
Yeah, so finishing up my 15th year, I'll have that into April. Spent most of my career in a special operations house, had the opportunity to kind of come up under a bunch of good special operations guys and kind of hung my career on that. Like I said, done 15 years, been a lieutenant for a little over 2.5 now, so fixing to finish up my 3rd year as a lieutenant as well. I currently am assigned to one of 2 of our special operations houses here in Longview. We have kind of split the houses with ropes and boats on one side of town and hazmat and technical rescue on the other. I started my career on the other side of town, and when I made lieutenant, they had just opened this station, Station 5, as a kind of the ropes and boats station, and I'm a water guy as well, so they sent me out here to kind of cut my teeth as a lieutenant. Longview Fire Department, we have 8 stations. We run 3 trucks, 7 engines, and 6 ambulances. We serve a town of, I think it says 80,000 on the sign, but we are a regional hub, so we swell to probably well over 100,000 during the daytime.
So with that being said, how big is y'all's special operations team? Are y'all running 3-man crews, 4-man crews?
Yeah, so our specialty operations units are basically, we have an engine on the far side of town that has a medic sitting beside it, and all the guys that are at Station 2, they're all special operations qualified. We have one apparatus that is on the south side of town. It's a truck company that's considered special operations. And then at my house, we have a medic engine and a ladder that's all special operations. We run 3-man staffing, unfortunately, on everything, and 2 on the medics, obviously. So,
as far as special operations, what training does your specific station have, and like how often or how long have y'all been working together? How long have y'all been training together? Because the call that we're going to get into in a little bit was quite a interesting call for anybody. I mean, so what kind of training together have y'all done? What certifications is your minimum certifications to be on that apparatus?
Sure. So, like I said, on our side of town, this particular house, we do obviously rope rescue, confined space, swift water, and we take care of all the dive as well. We have a dive component that we do, and we provide services regionally here in the East Texas area. Pretty good little area that we'll dive and do specialty type calls for. We're a pretty rural area around us, and we're kind of a regional hub, as I said. So for us, obviously, you're going to have to be a rope technician, a confined space technician, and also a swiftwater tech. And then some of the guys, not all the guys, but most of the guys also dive as well. So
okay. And then y'all's hazmat station, you said there. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a little lag there. No worries.
As far as your hazmat station, you said they're also special operations. So are they more structural collapse and stuff like that? Or how do y'all run that secondary rescue station?
Right. Yeah. So on the other side of town, we're on the west side of town. On the east side of town, Station 2, yeah, they do hazmat and also our structural collapse. They do the trench side of things as well. And then obviously everybody is ropes and confined space certified. So yeah, we most everybody holds a technician level in those disciplines, and then everybody's kind of cross trained in ropes. That's kind of the thing that brings us all together.
So how long has your specific team been working together?
Yeah, so my group of guys, you know how stations kind of come and go together, but I got here approximately 2 years ago. Most of them had already been together. When I got here, we actually had 2, all my firemen have changed out since then. So I've had 3 new firemen basically start with me but the drivers have pretty well been here. And our captain actually, we'll kind of get into that, but our captain got injured in September, so I've been riding up, and we've kind of been riding short. So we have at our station we have a ladder truck, engine, and a medic. As I said, typically I ride the engine as the lieutenant, and the captain rides the truck. But he's been off, so I've been riding up and was riding the ladder that day.
What training as a team, like, do y'all do training drills once a month, once a week? How often are y'all training?
Sure. So before I ever promoted, I was asked by a battalion chief who I was talking about it, and he's like, "What's your three things that you want to do every day?" My three things that I want to do every single day is I want to do some sort of training, I want to do some PT, and I want to have some family time at the end of the day. So my company trains every single day on some aspect of the job, whether it be pulling a hose or throwing a ladder, and typically we try to reserve our special operations stuff for Saturdays, but sometimes it falls during the middle of the week, or the guys are just wanting to throw a rope and do something. So yeah, so I would say at least, every third week or something, we'll probably hit some special operations. Like I said, we cover a pretty large field of the special operations world. So but a good chunk of that involves a rope somehow. So matter of fact, that happened on a Saturday, and the Saturday before that, we had been out playing on our tower. We have a tower here at our station, a little 4-story tower. So we had been doing some skate blocks and stuff like that. So, I mean, we have ropes hanging in the bay. Like, we're on rope regularly. I'd say every other week at least, that we're going to get on a rope somehow, some way. And it might be short, where we're just doing some ascents and some converts to hauls and those kind of things. But pretty regularly we're on a rope. So.
And I know from my department, so I come from Jackson Fire Department, Jackson, Mississippi. We just implemented a special operations station, and we're a 3-man crew. We handle all special operations calls. So whether it's hazmat, rope, confined space, dive, we have all of it all at one station right now. And I come from Roco Rescue. Prior to working at Jackson, I was a Clinton fireman. I went to Roco Rescue in Baton Rouge. It's an industrial rope rescue company, and I got to travel the country. But I'm trying to get into. I've got 9 guys that we're trying to get all on the same page of how we're going to do rope rescue. You learn the academy way, you learn different industry ways, and now we're trying to combine all that knowledge and make it all one. So I know we're in the process of training a lot, and that's why I wanted to ask you that question, is because it is a big thing to be able to know the person's next step. And that's my biggest thing I know I've seen is when I'm with Roco, no matter who's on what, we all know what each other is doing. I don't have to ask. I don't have to need. They're ready to go whatever we say, and we're going to rock it. So
Yeah.
getting to know is one of the biggest things in the world to me.
Sure. And absolutely. Working with a crew every single day, that's huge, right? Like, we know each other's personalities and all that. To go all the way back, I would say we have our special operations / training chief. He's been on the job for probably close to 25 now. He really brought Longview into the rope rescue world well before my time, and he's kind of been our standard. I mean, the guys, he came from a climbing background, did all kinds of cool rope stuff way back when. Brought us, through the times of ladder racks and all that, all the way to, we're running. I probably had 12 clutches on scene the other day when we got there. So I mean, we've made that transition all the way through. 2 of the guys, in fact, the 2 guys that you've seen all over the media, Lieutenant Stephen Winchell and Firefighter Cliff Patrick, there are 2 great rope guys. Those guys will know more about ropes than I'll ever know. Cliff comes from a rope background in the Northwest, and Winchell is just a machine and just knows everything there is to know about everything. He's just one of those guys. And so they're the background of our ropes, and both of those guys have been housed here. Winchell got moved fairly recently, but had been here for quite some time. So they've always kind of been our go-to ropes guys. And they also, back during the summer, about at least once every other year, we try to host a in-house rope rescue technician class that we teach in-house. And those 2 guys, along with a couple of other guys, are the backbones of the program, and kind of teach their ways. So most of us come from doing it their way, if you will, and then kind of grow just like
Right.
everything else on our own. But I would say to continue that on this particular rescue, like, yeah, my crew worked together. So, and we work together on a normal basis. And ultimately, I'm a huge proponent, especially in the ropes world. A good plan now is better than a great plan later. So they took my plan and we went with it, and it paid off. And the biggest thing was getting people on the tower and getting up there. That's what I knew we needed to do. And once I had guys on the tower climbing, I was able to start really implementing some, other minute changes. But really, our plan all along, we've run this scenario multiple times, a tower call, if you will. I'd never
Right.
had one plan that we had a hot air balloon with 2 people at 900 feet, obviously. But the city owns a couple of transmission towers, like radio towers locally that we're able to go get on and play on. And in fact, the other side of town, the other piece to our special operations team, we'll get together at least a couple of times a year and go run a big scenario where we'll be out there for 3 or 4 hours, and we'll reset the tower a couple of times and get people up and down the tower, however need be. So, not completely out of our wheelhouse or something that we had never
Right.
done. Obviously, not at that height, but which added some challenge to it. But so yeah, our training. My biggest issue with training on a daily basis is, like, at any point the tones can go off for any of those
Right.
calls that we just talked about. So figuring out, like, I got young guys out here that need to pull fire hose, like, and need to
Right.
squirt water. And then I also need to get them trained up on how to be on a rope or be,
Yeah.
on a dive cylinder underneath the water. So all those things, just managing all that gets tough. And in our smaller departments where we're trying to do it all out of one house kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Uh, and one last question before we get into the call. I know that's what you're really waiting for, but
it's all good, man.
what kind of equipment do y'all carry? Like, what equipment are y'all using? I heard you say the clutch. Y'all run CMC clutches. Are y'all running Maestros too, or just the clutch? Are y'all pretty diverse cache of equipment right now, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say over the last, 7, 8 years, we've probably done the transition with everybody else that everybody else did, right? Like, we've had some Maestros, we've had several other devices that we've played with. It's this will be maybe we'll get a recommendation from CMC, but to me, CMC nailed it with the clutch, right? They changed the
Yeah.
industry with what the clutch can do. I'm not the most dynamic rope guy you'll ever meet, but like for the everyday fireman rope tech guy, like that, it just works, right? And it's in a small package. It's similar to the Maestro, right? But the Maestro's huge, and you have other complications with it. We actually took all of our Maestros and we use it on our Swiftwater truck, just because it's usually
Okay.
not a big deal to be tied to a tree in a horizontal setup. But when we go vertical, we want to reduce that package size as much as possible. So yeah,
Right.
like I said, we've got clutches across everything. We still got a few IDs, and we'll hang on to the past. I got a brake bar rack in our bag and those kinds of things. But I mean, honestly, they're usually for bringing out to show the old guys or show the young guys how we used to do it. When we
Yeah.
were leaving the call, I was laughing, like, quite literally. When I came on the job and I took rope tech in 2013. We did most of rope tech with, a
Rack
little
bars.
rope on a big rope, and
Yeah.
that's how we did it. So
It's funny you
we've
bring
come
up
a
rack
long
bars.
way.
We went on a job up in Arkansas one time. I was working with Roco, and we run Maestros, we run IDs. Those are our two devices that we run. We like the clutches, but for confined space, to me, setting it up on a haul system, which is more than likely what we're going to do. We're not going to hook to ourselves 9 out of 10 times. Uh, the Maestro was very beneficial, but we got to a place where their rope was a half inch. And I mean, not half inch, it was 3/4 inch thick rope, and we had no device that could handle that at that time. So we used a rack bar, and
Yep.
so that rack bar still is very important. But I trained on a rack bar when I first went through rope A&O, and I'm by far not a fan of them, but they had their place and they had their time. So But back to it. I mean, CFC ought to give me a sponsorship at this point. I just did their school last week. The episode dropped yesterday, actually, where I was going over their training school. But CFC clutch, I agree with you. It's a very great piece of equipment. I'm a big fan of it. The only reason I stuck with the Maestro is due to the price point is one. So
Sure.
here in Mississippi, we don't get a lot of funding. I actually just got us all brand new rope equipment last year for Clinton, which is my secondary department, or it's the first department I ever worked for. But they're $500 versus a $900 Maestro, and that's stuff that we had to look at when raising money. So back to it though, how much rope did y'all carry on your truck? Because I know for us, we carry throughout the whole city. If I was to add up the whole city, I think I have 8 200-foot bags of rope.
Yeah. So the two primary rope trucks, they carry 300-foot ropes and 4 or 5 200-foot ropes, kind of depending on the day, what's washed and cleaned and good to go. Typically, we're going to have at least four 200-foot ropes on times 2, if you will. And then we have a couple of the other 2 trucks in town. They carry a light complement of ropes, but honestly, the 2 special operations units that showed up is what we used. So when I showed up, I had 300-foot ropes, and then pretty good stash of 200-foot ropes. So,
oh, that's awesome. So let's get into the call. What was the initial dispatch y'all received, and what's going through your mind?
Yeah, so I'll set the scene a little bit. We worked 4896 as of last year, so we were on the second day of our tour on a Saturday morning. So I typically let the dudes sleep in a little bit, and then my firemen were making breakfast. I was drinking my first sips of coffee, and one of my guys works for the volunteer combination department just to our north, who originally received the call where it happened, which was slightly out in the county. And he said, "Hey, LT, they just got a call for a balloon on a tower at Judson." And I was like, "Okay." So I get up and I'm headed towards the office. And before I even get all the way in the office, she toned us out. That was about 8:15 in the morning. So we get a tone out for a balloon rescue. I went ahead and dumped the whole house. It only got the truck originally, but we went ahead and I need all my guys on that call. So I went ahead and dumped the house on it and got us rolling. First initial reports was coming in that a balloon had struck a cell phone tower in an approximation of about 100 foot. Now, this is just calls coming in, and since I've had the opportunity to listen to several of the 911 calls, which were horrific and funny all at the same time, if you will. So just some of the things that, we heard, like, hey, we've got to, basically people asking to send. They didn't know who needed to come, but there was a balloon way up, and they were like, "Well, the fire department's on the way," and like, "Oh, the fire department ain't going to be able to handle this, and their ladders aren't going to reach this," and all that kind of stuff. So one of the jokes going around is like, "I bet people think the fire department can handle it now." So, but yeah, lots of things going on in the dispatch piece to it. We're probably close to 10 miles from the call when it came in. So when we got about halfway there, we turned onto a road that I had a straight shot towards that tower, and I could see it at that point. We were probably about 5 miles out, and I'm like, that's not 100 or 200 or 300-foot tower. So we were aware of that tower in our area. It's just outside of our city limits. Not something we'd ever been on, but we all knew that that's kind of the tall tower in the area. And I didn't have it in my forethought exactly how tall it was. As a matter of fact, I started getting on the FCC website and trying to look it up, and that never happened by the time I got engaged on the ground. But so yeah, but I knew it was quite a bit taller than 100 or 200 or 300 foot tall. So yeah, we arrived on scene. We had a couple of other units that got there before us. One was a truck company, the other was an engine company, as we call it, ordinary ops, if you will. And so they got there and started working on some stuff that they could handle on their end, and we started setting up what we knew was going to be a pretty big deal. Like I said, I was getting reports in my ear at that point that the tower was probably in the neighborhood of 800 foot. I knew they weren't at the top. It looked probably like they were 100 foot from the top of the tower, so I was thinking somewhere in that 700-foot range. So once again, I had 900 foot of rope I
Right.
knew coming off my rig. So I was like, I can probably do this in 3 pitches, was my original thought. And the other thing, just from a little bit of experience that I've had with rope rescue calls, I knew I needed to get a guy on the tower. We needed to get up there. And man, the precarious, the feebleness that thing was tied to the tower with can't be explained. Like even to this day, as we knock it around, I can't believe it ever stayed. Like you think
Oh
about a
wow.
hot air balloon floated into a tower and somehow just stayed where it hit. Like it's wild to me that enough of the canopy wrapped around a single guy wire to hold it in place to give us enough time. It was divinely inspired. The good Lord was worth watching out for those folks. So.
So you're headed to the scene. You've emptied your whole house, and you're the IC at this point already. Like you already know you're gonna be the IC in charge.
Yeah, so I was the ops command. So we had a battalion chief on the way out there as well. In matter of fact, he might have been the first one on scene, if not the second one on scene. So had a good IC that was coming, but yeah, I was going to be ops command the
The
whole time.
operation.
So,
Yeah.
yep, there you go.
So you get on scene. I got to send two guys now. What you're thinking, 700 foot, which is still one heck of a climb. I mean, that's a long ways up the tower. You're trying to dedicate your resources, get your resources ready. So y'all hook them in. How long did it take to make that initial climb up to the victim to start really processing? I mean, you've got a good idea from the ground, and what equipment are you sending up at that point?
Yeah, so I mean, my guys are good rope techs. So I pointed the guy driving me for the day. My drivers and firefighters rotate around the rigs, but the guy driving me for the day was my best rope guy. And I pointed at my most athletic guy, and I was like, "You two are going to be my rapid ascent team." And I was like, "Get what you need. You're only going to be able to carry so much stuff, but take what you think you need." I told him, get a rope and a clutch and a way to anchor it. And after that, think whatever else you think you might need. I mean, like I said, they're good rope techs. It's not something that I had to order every single little piece of
Right.
gear on their belt and sent them up the tower. I knew it was going to take a while. Had no idea how long it was going to take, but just knew that the quicker they could get there, the better off these folks were going to be. And then after that, I started putting other guys on the tower with more equipment and thinking that in all reality, I thought that we would end up having to get several more guys to the top of the tower to bring them more gear to do whatever they needed to do. Turned out they did a lot with a little gear up top. The other thing that I'll have to mention is, so we have a competition ropes team, and they go all over the state and do different rope competitions. The guys that are just nerdy rope guys, right?
Oh
Like the
yeah.
guys that you really want in your back pocket for this kind of deal. They have a group text, and the special operations chief, when he heard about it, hit the all call on that group
Oh
text.
wow.
And so within about 45 minutes, I had a bunch of those guys showing up too. So it was a huge help to get those guys, because in all reality, like I said, I've got 8 guys at my house. 1 or 2 of those guys was an apprentice. So, I was short a couple of rope techs straight off the bat at my house. And then we had one other station coming that had 3 dudes on it that were rope techs, So like we didn't have just a ton of guys, but on a call like this, we know that we need a lot of folks. And I knew that button had gotten pushed. So I knew I was going to have some reinforcements, but it was going to take a little while, and I needed to get guys on the tower. So.
And I don't think a lot of people realize, but I know for half-inch rope, y'all probably use 11 mil. Am I correct?
Yeah, so about that, we are going to 11 mil, but currently we're using half inch. I actually am looking at a box of 11 mil rope that's in my office, and we don't have we don't have a clutch for it yet, so we're not running it on the rigs yet. So it's slowly trickling in. We ordered a new engine that's here, but you know how it is. It takes a little while to get it rigged out. So yeah, everything we used was half inch rope.
So half-inch rope, 7 pounds per 100 foot. Just a rough estimate of how much it weighs. That's a lot of weight. So you're saying y'all had 300-foot rope bags. They're probably trying to carry a 300-foot rope bag up that tower. So now you're looking at 21 pounds additional weight plus any gear, and that clutch ain't light. I think it's what 4 or 5 pounds for the clutch alone, or
Sure.
maybe a little less. But still, you're looking at 25 pounds on your back climbing 925 feet. That's insane, and I mean that's a long ways up. So how long did it take for them to ascend? The first person or first two people to ascend?
Yeah, so kind of timeline real quick is we got the call right about 8:15. We arrived about 15 minutes later, so we were checking on scene right about 8:30. My first climber left the ground at 8:50, and it took him 70 minutes to make contact. He made contact right at 10 o'clock.
So once he arrived up there, he got to the top of the tower. Y'all had two victims, correct?
That's correct.
And so he has two victims. They're completely ambulatory, or what's the thought process at that point? What does he radio back to you? What are y'all talking at that point?
Yeah, so we had a little intel. Obviously, it's a 70-minute climb. We have some local partners. One of the actually both sheriff's departments. It was right on the kind of county line between two counties, and so we had Gregg County, Upshur County, and Longview PD all bring drones out to fly drones. So before he ever made the top, we had drones on station. We had also made cell phone contact with one of the victims that was in the basket. And one of the hardest jobs on scene was one of our training captains just dedicated his time to talking to her for the entire climb. So he talked to her from basically on scene time until my first climber got up there and was able to start communicating with her and talking her through it. So we knew that there was two victims in the basket. We knew that they were uninjured, thankfully, and completely ambulatory. Obviously, very distraught, very scared, but that they were both going to be probably have a pretty good ability to do anything we ask of them.
So cell phone signal actually did reach out. That's kind of interesting.
Yep.
Y'all, and that's a great thing that y'all had communication the whole time. I mean, it gives a little bit of easement. It's not a lot of easement for your mind, but at least you ain't having to. All right, now I got to patient package somebody all the way up here at 925 feet.
Yeah. And
So
we're going to work that. That's going to be one of our drills in the future is playing with that, because we've armchair quarterbacked that a ton. Like if we had to add our weight to the basket, what does that do to the load and all
right.
that on there? So we're going to play with that some in the near future, but luckily we didn't have to do that day.
I remember when the first news article came out, I was looking at it. There's a lot of guys. They know I'm big into special operations. I love the special ops side of the world. But they were sending it to me. I was already watching y'all's videos live and stuff. And I was thinking, what would I do in that situation? And I was like, knowing how much rope I have on the department, being the one that's ordered all the stuff, the one that made that cachet, I was like, I'm going to have to do a multiple descent trip. So I was going to have to lower them down, catch it with the next rope, load the line, and keep going all the way down. And so the most thing I think I was impressed about when I was watching the videos is how y'all did that little, I don't know if you want to call it a Tarzan rope, but your little pendulum swing that y'all made. How did y'all get that rope over there? Did y'all have a reach pole? What was going on up there?
Yeah, so my lead climber, when he made the top, he basically took a rope, threw an anchor strap on a clutch, and well, actually, I think the first thing he did was just pitch it over with a carabiner. Luckily, he was able to make the pitch. I think he said it took 2 or 3 attempts for the guy to catch it, and then that guy just put a 3 or 4 wrap on one of those basket stays, and then put an overhand knot in it, maybe 2 overhand knots. So we weren't real keen on that, but it was what we could get at the moment. It was something on the basket. And then he came back to the tower and put a clutch on the tower. And matter of fact, he kind of put a little pressure on that clutch, and it started pendulum him that basket, which we were pretty concerned that we were going to dump that basket sideways. So, one of the comments you see a lot was like, why didn't they just pull the basket to the tower? Like, well, it would have, A, we might have dislodged it, and B,
Right.
we would have probably put it at such an angle that they would have been likely to have fallen out of the basket at that point. So yeah, he threw a rope over there, and it kind of established a trolley line, if you will. and they put a
Right.
clutch on it. They eventually replaced it with a couple of Prussics, and then took that clutch and a an anchor strap and went about 25 foot above. And they actually, because we only took the one rope at that point, they took that rope and dropped it down they took the tail end of the rope out of the bag and took the other end up to the top and ran it through the clutch device and came back down to the basket. And we had used that original tie off to slide a couple of harnesses to the victims.
Okay.
And luckily they said it was pretty difficult. One of them, we had at the time when they started the ascent, I had one victim harness available to me, and they took an extra, just regular one of our Petzl harnesses. And so they said it was pretty tough talking the gentleman into getting into a Petzl harness. Just, is that the leg hole? Is that the arm hole? You can just
Yeah.
imagine somebody that's never been in a harness trying to do that in that environment. So
And y'all probably run the Petzl Aveos, probably. Is that what I'm
yeah,
guessing?
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my personal harness too. But yeah, I couldn't imagine trying to walk somebody already in a chaos situation. You got the chaos factor definitely going, and you got
And the wind was, sorry, the wind was at like 20 sustained. So I mean, they were dealing with all that too. So
now, as far as stabilization, you've talked about at toward the beginning. You're like, I'm still surprised to this day that this held on. The hot air balloon held on to the tower. So, what was it? Just the balloon part wrapped up in a antenna, or what? How was it stabilized ish? We'll
yeah,
say.
man, it literally basically put a girth hitch on itself on the balloon. It wrapped the
Oh
guy
wow!
wire well enough that I guess when it went around it, they impacted the tower pretty good. It actually bent that basket to the point that it's not flyable anymore. They impacted that tower pretty hard. And when it did, I guess the only thing that we've been able to see is that it just did a couple of wraps around one of the guy wires and just held on that way, kind of dynamically loaded it that way. So yeah, man, it was literally holding on by a nylon thread up there. So
Dream and prayers up there is what it
yeah,
sounds like.
that's it, man.
Uh, and how? I mean, you said it was difficult talking to the victims through the harness, but were they still pretty panicked the whole time, or were y'all able to calm them down pretty good once y'all got up there?
Yeah, it's my understanding that they were both very, very distraught until we got them to the tower.
Okay.
Then, so yeah, they to finish that story is they got a couple of harnesses on each, or they got a harness on each one. They actually slid them a Prussic with two carabiners on it and tied that into that rope that we had originally sent over there, clipped it in just for a temporary, and then they went up and hung that higher rope that you saw to do the pendulum swing. And so we at least had them for a little while. Then we individually got them off of that and put them on the pendulum rope. And that big wide strap is actually that you see in all there. That's a balloon part that the guy had actually flung out that they use as a ground strap, basically to hold that balloon on the ground when they land those things. And so when they came out, they were pretty worried about those people slamming into the tower. So the guy above
Right.
was vectoring that rope out with his foot pretty good. And then that's why the lieutenant that is now world famous was hanging off the side to kind of catch them and kind of break their fall. And luckily they didn't hit very hard. They're kind of able to ride that balloon strap and kind of just softly come back. So just good work by the guys on the tower. They had it figured out and made it happen up there. So, but yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
once they got to the tower, and it was a little tough because up there at that elevation, that tower's designed to be on the inside of the tower. The ladder's on the inside.
Right.
So it was a little tough getting them to feed themselves through those tight triangles at that point. But once they got through there, they said that they got the girl clipped in, if you will. And when they got her clipped in, she started FaceTiming live. Like uh, she was okay once she was in a harness and clipped into the tower. So both of these people had been in a balloon quite a bit, so I'm sure heights wasn't necessarily an issue for them, but definitely hanging the way they were hanging was a problem for them both. But yeah, and then we got the elderly gentleman over as well, got him threaded through and tied in, and they just converted that high pendulum to their lower, and by then we had been systematically figuring and running numbers on the ground, trying to make sure and verify. Because when it all shook out, like I'd ordered my 300-foot ropes to the top, but it didn't quite work out that way. So I had like a 300 at the very top, and then a couple of 200s, and then a 300 here and there. So I had to talk to my guys. We had radio contact with all my guys, and those drones, man, those were huge for us because we were actually able to go up and set the elevations. And I basically would do, give a 50-foot variance for the rope length that I had,
Right.
and just set those guys in position. And I think once we had them all set, we only had to move one of them one time on our first lower and got everybody. So pretty well hit it, because I ended up having 6 pitches
Oh
up
wow.
and down the tower. So we ended up having 6 sets of guys lowering. So
So y'all did do the controlled descent. Then as they're coming down, you hook into the next rope, load that line, get slack on your line coming down, and then do the 6 pitches that way.
that's exactly right. Yeah. So I told you that my knowledge for a long time was it was an 800-foot tower, and then finally I got a report. One of the drones got up, and they had a big 50-inch TV screen in the back of a cop car that we were able to watch most of this, which was tough to watch, by the way. It's just, you want your hands on it, so sitting there watching
Right.
it play out's tough. But I saw his altitude, and I'm like, is that MSL or AGL? And he's like, that's AGL, and it's reading 920, and he's right there on him. And I'm like, you're telling me they're 920 foot off the ground? Because I'm the whole time thinking they're somewhere 650, 700. And he's like,
Right.
yes, sir, they're 920. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Which the problem with that is about the height that we normally train tacked on to the 700 foot that I thought they were. So they're
Right.
250 foot above where I thought they were. So now
Right.
and we train at, 200, 250 pretty regularly, but now they're that much higher than I even thought they were. So, but yeah,
Which
so
it's amazing to me still. You said 70-minute climb all the way up to 900, like you just said, 20 feet. And I was doing the math on that. I was like, they're doing a little over. It took them, I think it was 100 steps per 10 minutes. I want to say that was the range I found it at, which that's only 700 feet. But they climbed over 100 steps in 10 minutes. That's a long, and I don't think 100 foot is the equivalent of 10 stories tall. And they're
yeah,
on little pegs.
let me brag on my guys a little bit too here. Right? So my lead climber I watched go 6 for 6 on 315 on squat the day before, in the first half of the tour, and the guys that ended up at the top with him started about 20 minutes after he did. The fastest climber probably did it in about 45 minutes, and they clip
Oh
climbed the
wow.
whole thing. There was no wire, so they clip
Oh, so
climbed the
y'all did not have
whole.
a guide wire.
No wire. And when we were getting everything laid out, that was one of the things I was yelling about. And I had another lieutenant at the base of the tower, kind of being my on tower safety and checking gear and that kind of thing. And he's like, "Hey, LT, there ain't a wire," because we have wire chasers,
Right.
but that they got thrown back in the bag because there wasn't one, so they had to clip climb the whole thing. So,
And this
yeah,
clip, that's a pain in the butt. I've clip climbed a lot, and it ain't no fun
no.
whatsoever.
So slowed them down a whole lot, and just to show how big of a bunch of beasts they are, man.
The
I got good guys.
extremely, yes.
Yeah.
You got some incredible guys. I mean, making that climb and adrenaline's pumping, but that still don't account for the endurance they had to climb that tower that fast. And that's one thing that I was thinking about personally. I said, "Am I ready to go climb a tower that fast?" I said, "There's no way I'd make it up there that fast. Like that's a long height. It's something to train for and something to be better ready." Uh, so once y'all start the climb, I mean, y'all had 6 people spaced out for your descent, and at this point, you're having to pull every rope out of your truck you got.
Mm.
So you're running 200-foot sections, you're running 300-foot sections, and I'm sure they tied a stopper knot at the bottom that way catch just in case. But man, that's a lot of coordination. Number one, was y'all's radios able to reach the whole climb up and down? So y'all had good
Yeah,
signal the whole time.
Yeah, we had good, clean communication. That was one of the things that will go down in history as one of the best things on the. I mean, the whole thing went well, right? So, but yeah, great communication throughout the whole thing. I could talk to everybody up and down. We have on record 3 or 4 par checks throughout the time. Like, I mean, it was a well coordinated event from the ground, so we were able to talk. Yeah, and when you say six, it actually wasn't 6 people. I only had one pitch originally that only my I had a pitch about 750, and that was my senior driver was at that pitch, and he was by himself, and he was the only guy. Everybody else went up in a pair of two, and I'll pass that little nugget on. Every single one of my guys when they got down said it just gave them the warm and fuzzy to have one more guy to help right there. So if you ever get out there, you need to send a pair of twos. So whatever you think you got to have, you need to double it because they want to be with one more dude just to look at it. And honestly, at this height, I'm open and honest. Like we went single rope technique. There
Yeah,
wasn't a double rope, so we didn't have enough to do that. Right. So
right.
there was only one rope and one carabiner on these people for quite some time. And then when we get to the next pitch, we exactly like you said, we'd clip in the next system, load it up, unload the top system, and away they went. So
That's incredible. And so your first pitch, did y'all end up shrinking that down from that 750 to 300, or how'd y'all leave it at 750 and then drop everybody up?
my third pitch ended up having to climb up about 50 or 60 just to reset, but that was it.
Okay.
Everything else flowed up and down. And now obviously after we got the first guy, in the system going, we knew we were okay for the female victim as well. So yeah, so obviously she came down quite a bit faster, and once we got the male victim on the third or fourth pitch, we started working on her down too. So that got a little crazy on the radio because
Yeah.
they're having to talk back and forth, and the guys and once again they're able to talk to each other too. So but we had to really lock down. And at one point before we started the lower operation, we kind of went up and down the tower and like, hey, you're pitch one, you're group one, you're group Woody, you're group two,
You're right.
naming my guys by name, and hey, you're three. Understand you're three, and everybody know their group number. Yeah, okay, good. So let's talk in group numbers, and then we'll have a good communication set there. So
Man, it
and
sounds
after
like
that,
y'all
man,
y'all had a lot of great things going. I mean, even though it was high stress, y'all stuck to your training. Y'all stuck to your plan. Y'all didn't have to change your plan. Y'all kind of had a pre-made plan, a little bit of change in height, but other than that, y'all's plan was pretty ready to go. And y'all didn't have to pass. Well, I guess y'all had to pass one knot.
mm-mm,
No passing
no,
knots.
no passing knots. It was super nice. So, like I said, we had enough rope not to pass knots. Again, I'll this didn't happen on Saturday, February the 28th, right? Like in 2013, one of the guys at the top of the tower taught me ropes, you know,
Right.
13 years ago, right? And we had a tower day in 2013, and every one of those guys has been taught by those same guys over the last 13, 14 years at some point. And every single one of those classes had a tower day, and we run this scenario um, at least once or twice a year. Me and the captain from the other side of town, we try to get together and we do a tower day. So uh, this rescue happened on all of those days, and it just got played out in a very high optics way on Saturday, February the 28th. So exactly like you said, man, it went smooth because we had done it before. One of the other lieutenants that happened to be on the tower and climbing for me, uh, he said he got to a point. He's like, yeah, it's nerve wracking climbing, and you get everything in your position. He's like, but once we got in position, it's his word, so I'll give it to him. And Lieutenant Clinton said, like, we owned the tower and we all knew it, and I really like those words. Like, yeah, we had it and it was ours to do at that point. So
I mean, that's exactly what it sounds like to me. And from what I've seen video wise, what I've seen everything else, it was a pretty flawless. I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit of flaws, and we'll talk about maybe some lessons we learned from that rescue. But overall, in the general perspective, it was effective, it was safe, and you got the victims down without any injuries caused by y'all. So
and I got my guys down without any injuries.
and guys, yes. So overall, it was a huge success, a huge win for you. And I mean, that IC position is not an easy position. You're the one that has to make the quarterback moves. You're the one that has to change the direction. So you had a lot of stress on you, a lot of knowledge. Whether you say you're one of the most experienced rope guys or not, you played that role in which you were needed, and you did, from the sounds of it, an excellent job. So don't forget to pat yourself on the back too. I mean,
Thank you,
I
sir.
know we all like to pat our guys on the back. It's who we are. That's what we do. But you had just as much stress as them. And so I guess we could move into a little bit of the lessons you learned. You were talking about the estimation being a little bit off, but I don't think you can really change anything about that. But having the equipment y'all had, we have nothing like what y'all have. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. So we have a lot of the newer rope equipment. I'm running 11 mil rope versus the half inch. But when it comes to like drones, I think PD has one drone in my little town. And for Jackson, we don't have a drone. We'd have to call in Hines County just to bring us a drone. So that knowledge of equipment that y'all and resources of equipment y'all had seems pretty awesome and incredible.
Yeah, like I said, we've got that competition rope team has really taken us to another level in our ropes. Like, it's I've had a bunch of guys. I work for I'm a rescue squad officer for Texas Task Force 2, and so I've had a lot of guys reach out to me from that group, and they're like, "Hey, who does y'all's tower rescue training? Because everybody wants to get in on some tower rescue." And I'm like, "Man, we do ours in house. We got a bunch of studs that know ropes up and down, and we just teach it in house." And the answer is they're not looking for a part-time gig. So that's the other
Right.
question everybody wants is like, "Hey, do those guys teach outside the house?" Like they've got young families and they're really not looking for anything else right now, but maybe in the future. But yeah, so they've kind of helped build out that cache. The two guys that you've seen all over the, every news media there is, those two dudes have brought us in, and some other cats that aren't getting any credit here and there. That group has really brought us to the forefront. Like I said, I moved to this station a little over 2 years ago now, and I had to learn a new lingo when I got here
Oh
because they
yeah.
were speaking in acronyms that I didn't know. I didn't know what a Greon or a ASAP or any, like, I'm like, y'all, they literally took me out in the bay when I first got out here, opened the bags up and like, yeah, this is a Greon, this is an ASAP. Well, I was riding on a company that at the time we had old 5-inch silver pulleys, like we were still
Yeah.
running that down there. So they had gotten some new stuff and we're in the new world, and they brought me up to speed, thankfully. And we get out and train enough that, hey, we all knew what we were talking about. So yeah, lessons learned, man. One of the biggest ones is I mean, if you're not training, you're not going to be able to do anything like this, right? If you're not training for it, like this didn't happen that day. So you got to get out and train and have a training plan. Company officers got to have, or, a good driver can drive training as well, or a good
Yeah.
firefighter. I'm not saying they can't, but you need to have a good training plan, have a fallback for your training plan. Like I have a little deal where like on it's make the grab Mondays, tactical Tuesdays, wet Wednesdays, throw-in Thursdays, and forcible Fridays. And sometimes we deviate from those things. But if we don't have anything, or I came in groggy and I don't have anything, like, hey, we're gonna go. It's Friday. We're gonna force a door today, and that's it. Like we'll go out there for 30
Yeah.
minutes and do that. So fall back and train, man. That's the biggest thing I would probably tell you. But yeah, specific takeaways. We didn't have one thing I think we'll institute as company policy here is a rapid ascent team and what they're going to have on them to go. Like, hey,
Yeah.
right now we got to get up a tower. The IC picks his two dudes, and you two go make it happen. And we got a card in the bag, and it says you shall take a 200-foot rope. You shall take a clutch. You shall take an anchor strap. You shall take X, Y, and Z, and get
Right.
going, and to keep that load out as light as possible. I'll be the other thing that, some of the rope guys have warned me out about is like, hey, man, you probably should have sent that 200-foot rope to the top instead of and save
Yeah.
it for the lower pitch. Once again, my original thought was like, I thought I could do it in 3 pitches with 3 ropes, but
Right.
yeah, that's another little takeaway, a jewel that I'll hang on to, like if you're having to take all your rope on the tower, take your light ropes to the top.
Yeah.
Uh, I did not. I sent them to the tower really, really rapidly. I probably should have hit pause for just a second and had a really, really, really good pre-brief. It didn't hamper us too much, but it coulda.
Right.
There was some things that could have played out that. So I was in a pretty big hurry, and I knew what we needed to do, and we did execute that, luckily. But having a good pre-brief, everybody hands in, knowing what we're doing right quick, having a guy at the bottom, and I did have this, but it wasn't an assignment. Just a heads up lieutenant went and did it, and he got at the bottom and did a gear check as they were going on. And I would add to that, as the ops commander, I would have really liked to have had a list of what they had on them. Not that I
Right.
need to know every little thing, but if I'd had a little bit better idea of what they had, I probably could have done a little more planning for them while they were climbing.
Right.
So if your guy, if you got a spare guy, a rookie, anybody standing around that can just write down what's on their belt right quick, like that would do a lot of good. Just knowing, hey, that guy took a 300-foot rope, and he's got a clutch and an ASAP and a Grion, and that's all he's got.
Right.
Like, cool. So one other thing is we ended up fixing it, but defining teams as they're going up. Like, hey, you two are my rapid ascent team. You're going to be team one. My next two guys, let me get it written down hard. We ended up having some guys that uh, were better climbers than others, if you will, and ended up getting
Right.
passed up here and there. So we had a little bit of confusion there, but it was fairly easy to work out on radio. So we were able to fix it, but something that probably could have gone a little bit better from my vantage point on the ground. Really good defined command. We didn't have a lot of problem there. When I got on scene, I was the original guy that was the special operations guy on scene. So, man, I'll tell you, it was hard for me not to make the climb, but it wasn't my climb to make that day. I wanted, nobody wants to make a 900-foot climb, but at the same time, if the boys are going to be in the suck, I'd kind of like to be up there with them. And
Right.
so before I got on scene, I knew in my position that I wasn't going to make that climb that day, that I was going to do the job that I had to do. But ordinarily, when the captain's here, like, I would have made the climb. I'd have probably been one of the first two up. So it was the way it played out, and like you said, it worked out well. So I'm happy to fill the role that I needed to fill that day. Yeah, what gear's going up? Two guys. Oh, two guys on each level. Kind of told you about that. Just gives everybody
Yeah.
the warm and fuzzies. And man, it could be just a dude that's willing to climb the tower and kind of set that other guy at ease. And typically, what I was
Right.
trying to do is pair up what I know your guys, right? And
Right.
trying to pair up a little stronger rope tech with a little less strong rope tech. You know what I mean? Because one of
Someone
my
maybe more in physical shape, better physical shape, but can listen. But you have that strong rope tech, but you also have that dude with endurance that kind of help push as you're going up.
That's exactly right, man. So finalize an ascent plan. Yeah, something huge takeaway, and we'll work on this. Like, so we have what we call a training officer that he's our water boy, if you will, and he carries some water around in his Tahoe. None of my guys had a hydration pack, a water bottle that could clip on, nothing. They literally grabbed a bottle of water and put it in their pocket. And my guy that made it to 750 dropped his water at some point, and it came down and blew up on the ground. So he didn't even have any water with him up there.
Oh wow.
So a plan for that, and I knew we had an issue with that, but at the time I had a job to do, and that's been beat up on the backside, and I've kind of not gotten irritated, but I'm like, yeah, all I could do was hand them a bottle of water. Like, I would have loved to hand them each an ice down Camelback, but that wasn't what I had.
Right.
So in your planning, something to think about is getting either, and we've kind of knocked it around, a Camelback's going to get nasty while it's riding in the rig or whatever, but like, do we have a stash of some, plastic drinking jugs with a carabiner clipped to them, whatever it
Right.
looks like for you, like, you need to really think about that. And maybe even, some snacks that you rotate out from time to time, something to rig in a
Nav, something like that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a power bar probably would have went a long way. My Braden Pointer is his name, my lead climber. He he's a big hungry boy, and so by the time he got down, he was hangry. So luckily we had that handled. So we had a lot of food on the ground once they got down. Uh,
And how long
yeah,
was the climb? Like from the start of climbing to the last person on ground, how long was that?
yeah, about 4.5 hours. So to the
Whew.
last victim on the ground was about 4 hours, and then I had my lead climber left the ground at 8:51, and he got back on the ground at 13:52. So right at 5 hours, he was on the tower. So, and
So
again,
that's 5 hours without food and one little 16-ounce bottle of water.
that's right. And they had just woken up, like nobody, like literally, breakfast was about to be served, and so we'd gone a whole night without eating, and yeah, it wasn't like they'd had breakfast or lunch either. So, yep,
That's crazy. That's insane. But hey, they mustered through it, and it just shows you. You know, I don't know if y'all have the same issues we have down here, but people don't see the fire department as much of the workforce. They see PD out there all day, and PD does all this. The only time they see us do anything is if we go to a structure fire or we have one of these exotic rescues. And for us, they're pretty uncommon. I mean, Clinton's actually had 3 rope rescues in the last 5 to 10 years. We had two water tower rescues, and I can't remember what the other tower rescue was. But then in Jackson, I've only worked one rescue, and it was a tree climber suspended. So these rescues are not common for any fireman by no means. We train for them. We had this specialized group of people that this is their life, what they do. But nothing prepares you for a 925-foot tower climb. Nothing prepares your body to be on empty from not eating since last night. And then you add the element of dehydration. What was the temperature? Y'all said y'all had 20-mile-an-hour wind.
yeah, man, we got really lucky with the temperature that it wasn't, the middle of August or anything. It was an absolute gorgeous day, probably in the low 70s at the highest point, and had a 15 to 20 mile an hour sustained wind. So that was once again divinely inspired by the good Lord. The weather was perfect. I mean, it doesn't get any better in East Texas. So
But I mean, you still got to take in that accountability of that wind coming through. It's raking across that skin. It's dehydrating that skin. You're getting wind burn, wind chap, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure they're all in short sleeves and not wearing the long sleeve fishing shirts or anything because I mean, who's going to do that at the station? So like you said, I mean, these guys came up there and they were ready to go. They trained for this moment. They showed up for you. They were 100% locked in from the time they got the call to the time they hit that tower to the time they got every victim on the ground, plus themselves on the ground. And you really can't say enough about that. How flawless. I mean, like you said, you gave us some takeaways, but of those takeaways, a lot of that's just progressional learning in tower rescue anyway. I mean, I can't say that any of them directly falls back on you uh, or your team or the knowledge that your team has. It's progressional learning. Sometimes we don't know stuff until we do the stuff. So overall, I mean, what y'all accomplished is awesome. It's a great accomplishment for your team, yourself, and your department. I mean, your department it reflects not only on your department, your community, your state, but just how serious y'all take special operations. Um, and like I said, it's impressed me. It's impressed a lot of the rope guys that I hang out with and I talk to. We Monday morning looked at it, and what's crazy to me is what you said y'all did at y'all system. Honestly, we thought they were ambulatory and came down the tower because we saw the little clip of y'all doing the pendulum swing, but we didn't see them actually go down the tower. But once you say that, I mean the same rig y'all decided to go with is what we had decided to go with. If we had that same situation, is through the pitches of rope all the way down, and it works. Basics works, and that's another thing. You can't get too. There's so many videos out there nowadays, TikTok, Facebook, all these different places, and you see all these fancy rope things, and sometimes you got to stick with the basics. The
yep.
basics is what gets people down in a safe, efficient way.
And I'll add on to that, like I ended up having 14 guys on the tower, right? And with multiple different levels of knowledge. Everybody knows how to put a rope in a clutch. All of my guys know how to put a rope in a clutch and sling a piece of angle iron with a anchor strap. That's pretty simple,
Right.
right? And so in keeping it simple, it made it easy for those guys. Like almost to the point of oversimplification because they were all a lot of those guys were on that tower for a long time with nothing to do, and so they were checking and rechecking, making sure they, as I say, the sailboat noise is bad, like so they
Right.
were making sure they weren't hearing the sailboat noise on the wrong side of the clutch, over and over and over until they ever actually got them rigged up, and then we'd do a load check before we took them off the other system, like yeah, we got them, like so. Yeah, that's it. Right, the basics work. Longview, man. Once again, it, it it's been really easy to brag about the guys and all this, but I'll brag on the fire department just a touch. Is we have a very storied history in special operations for the Longview Fire Department, and apparently I said this, and I didn't know I said it on scene, but it's kind of gone around here locally. But like we were who we said we were that day, So
Right.
that's that's the ultimate takeaway. Is like we've been saying that we're all this special operations, and we get beat up by the guys around town for going out of service, and my last name's Ledkins, so I get called last out Ledkins all the time because my guys are out training and all that. But like that's what it takes, to go pull off something like
It
this.
is. Yeah. And y'all were not just a special operations company going into this. Like you said, y'all are a ladder company and an engine company at that house. So you still have to hit your basic fire tactics. You still have to do forcible entry. You still have your ventilation. I mean, you have so many different areas to cover as a firefighter, but you still made time to actually hit the special ops stuff. And I mean, like I said, there I've always been told there's simple stupid and then there's firefighter simple stupid. And you gotta keep it firefighter simple stupid for firefighters. And you did that. You accomplished that goal. Y'all kept it easy. Like you said, all they had to do was load a clutch, put a carabiner and an anchor strap around a piece of angle iron, and then hook to the victim as they came down. And then their job was pretty much done, other than pulling a handle and saying, "All right, go down for a little while, and then
Yep.
we'll do the same thing over and over." So y'all accomplished a lot of great things. I'm really looking forward to the after action report. I'm sure there'll be some fancy school come out there and do an after action report. I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna read the whole article. I've tried to follow it any chance I got. But I don't know what they could say about it. Like, I think y'all set the standard for the United States wide on a 925-foot rescue. I don't think there's any other team that would have done it any more efficient. 5 hours, last person down. That's pretty much unheard of. I mean, usually these rescues alone take somewhere 7 to 8 hours, but y'all had it in 5 hours. Your team was on point. Y'all knew what y'all were going to do. Y'all had the knowledge, and man, it's unbelievable how efficient that was.
Thank you.
And like I'm kind of like the other guys from your task force up there. Man, y'all can make a whole training LLC on just tower rescue now, and I'd go take the class. I mean, I'm very fortunate at my department though. One of our training officer just came from the State Fire Academy, and he's a road guru. He likes it just as he knows way more than I do, but he likes it just as much as I do. And he is working on tower rescue. That's what we're moving into, trying to train for and stuff, since we had those 3 tower rescues. But y'all incorporated y'all's plan. Y'all are on 250-foot tower all the time. Y'all knew the tower life. Now, did y'all have a little bit of variances? Like you said, the whole not having a cable ascender or a cable descent. That's a big change that a lot of people don't realize. That cable ascender is so nice. You're just climbing and it catches you. But now you're having to use old crab claws all the way up. And
Yep.
that takes a little bit of work off a little bit more work on your biceps and your forearm strength and everything else, because now you got to move everything. So overall, though, man, that y'all just did great, and I'm gonna brag on y'all's department one more time. Brag on you, because as an IC, you had the hardest job as far as staying functionally sound. And if it wasn't for you, that whole rescue falls apart up top. You can have 2 of the best guys in the world on a tower, but if you don't have somebody getting the next step and thinking ahead of them to make it easier on them, they don't function. So, man, give yourself a pat on the back. Give your whole team a pat on the back, the department, everybody you can. And I really appreciate you coming on here. Like, I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot and see if I can't get somebody. And you messaged me. I was sitting at Jackson. I was like, oh my word, I just gotta message from, and man, I was thrilled. Like I said, I love rescue side of the house, and man, I've been extremely excited. Um, so as we go to wrapping up, I mean, what other points would you say? Like, is there anything else you can give our listeners? Any gear suggestions or gear ideas, training, or is it just repetitive?
No,
Or get
yeah.
that time?
So I think on the backside of this, we obviously it's the talk of the town. I think one thing that you can that we're trying to navigate right now is not to just pigeonhole into, yeah, we made 1,000-foot tower rescue, if you will. Like
Yeah.
that's probably not happening in any of our careers again. Like it's already been said, like, well, do we go out and buy 1,000-foot, 1,200-foot rope and ascenders and powered
Yeah.
ascenders and all this? Like, well, and it kind of gets going back and forth. Like, yeah, we can ask for the world right now and probably get it. Like we're on literally global news,
Right.
but at the same time, like we did what we needed to do with what we had. So I would say, like, keep your cash uh, in a place that is manageable, that is replaceable, because we all know that, yeah, we get a grant or whatever and be able to spend, five or $10,000 this year. Like, can we replace that when it comes time? And I've been on the backside of that. I came on the fire department in 2011, and we were throwing expired crap away on the hazmat rig that had, when all the money was flowing for anything hazmat after 9/11,
Right.
and like we couldn't get a dollar to replace anything at that point. So think
Yeah.
about that. Like, just keep your cash diverse enough to do the job that you have locally. And yeah, like there's going to be some oddities come up. Make those contacts with those people that do the job. We ended up having uh, our training chief had a contact for a tower rescue guy that ended up on scene, but by the time he got there, we had both victims on rope headed down. And so, like, but he was great to have there and make sure we were still
Right.
doing the right thing. And it was great to have his knowledge on the backside, just take a look at it and pick it apart too. And so make those contacts when you can, especially like we were talking about, like the drone element. That was the overall IC that got that rolling, and that was huge, like huge. That was not something I had a lot more to worry about, and it's in my
Right.
playbook now. But like, um, I'm a water rescue guy, so I know how important drones are, but I wasn't thinking about it in this environment. And man, it made our job really easy. So make those contacts if you don't have a drone. Somebody probably in your area does, or man, see if you can write a grant, go get you a drone. I know there's some training that goes in with all of that, but like go pick out the nerdy dude that wants to do something weird, and let him fly the drone around, man. Like there's something for everybody to do, and that might be something for somebody to do. So
And like you said, the drone aspect. I mean, it's amazing. We were talking about so I hired on in 2014, so I was 3 years after you. But drones weren't really a thing when we hired on.
yeah.
And I mean, we still had eights. I'm sure y'all still had a few eights there, rescue eights, ascender
Yep.
or descenders, and then you had the rack bars. But it wasn't until about 7 years ago that all this new equipment started coming. These drones have gotten from a little toy thing that you used to fly around and fight people with to now they're these huge multi system things, and it's awesome how much technology has evolved and the assets we have.
But keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple for sure. Well, before we came on the podcast, I told you I was going to ask you 3 questions, and so we'll start off with the first question for the listeners this week. What is a quote of the week that kind of resembles you, or is your quote that you stand by?
Yeah, I keep a list of quotes. I've always enjoyed quotes. I think for this particular one, I've harped on training, so we'll go that way, right? So the essence of training is to allow for error without consequence. So that's the one I'll leave you with this week. Like we're gonna get out and play with that basket and try to do some weird stuff and try to see if we could have got in that basket without affecting it and that kind of thing. So yeah, just get out and train, and do something outside of the box that might not work, right? Do it safely. Make sure you guys are tied off if you're working at height or something
Right.
like that. But like we've set up our Arizona Vortex in so many different odd ways, and like sit there and scratch our chin, like, would that break it or would it flip it, or oh, let's load it up and see. Like Yeah, so get out and train when there's no consequence, and we don't hold somebody's lives in our hands at that point.
Well, hey, whatever y'all figure out with that basket, when y'all are training, y'all at least pass it on to us. Let us kind of hear what y'all figure out, with different ways of securing it and stuff like that. And then the second question I've had, you've been in the fire service now for 15.
Yeah.
So what is the best class to date that you have done, or conference? Like, what would you say has been the most influential of your career?
Yeah, so a lot of our stuff, we've had great guys here in the Longview Fire Department. Like I said, we've got a great special operations tradition. So a lot of the stuff has been in-house. I'll be honest, like I remember sitting at a table, and this you're going to hear this one. This isn't a novel one, but a guy was telling me about a hose handling class, and it ended up being Aaron Field's nozzle forward class, and it was the first class. You know, when I started, you and I started, there wasn't a class every weekend somewhere across the country to go take a search class or a hose handling class. So I think our industry owes Aaron Fields a tip of the hat for what, in my mind, he kind of got going, you know, like, so getting to go take that nozzle forward class and really understand how to move a nozzle forward. Like we trained, we did stuff back then, but it was OJT and, you know, him teaching that class the way he taught that class. And it just really opened up my mindset. And then I feel like the floodgates open too. Like then you go take a search class, a tick class, all whatever class, a ladder class, whatever you want to take. And so, that was probably the most novel class. I took a bunch of nerdy stuff. I was a hazmat guy for a while, you know, and I've been to National Fire Academy and done the chemistry thing and all that. Great classes.
Me too.
Not knocking it down, but
Yeah.
the world of rescue is great. But a basic firefighter class starts your career off on such. I mean, I tell these new guys all the time, like what we put in new guys now is so much more than I ever got, and I can't
Oh,
wait.
100%.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. 100%.
yeah, and I just can't wait to see. Like I've got three tailboard firefighters that have less than 3 years on the job right now. All three of my firemen. I can't wait to see where they are when they get to my point in the career, because they're going to be so much farther than I am. Like because of where they started. You know what we were able to offer to them early on has just been incredible. So I look forward to those days, and I look forward to seeing where the fire service is headed.
And you brought up the chemistry at hazmat. I took that class about 2 years ago with David Matthew. I don't know if he was your instructor,
It's been a few
but
years. I don't even remember.
he's actually coming on the podcast this week or next week to record an episode, as well. And I tell you, I learned a lot in that class. I mean, who thinks inorganic chemistry for 2 weeks would be fun at all?
Yep.
But you learn it, you have fun, and I tell you, it opened my eyes to a lot. And because I nerd out on the hazmat, I nerd out on any special operation stuff. It's where I try to keep myself. And it's crazy to me you brought up that class in there, because it's a good one. But then the last question of the day: who would you recommend to be on the podcast to sit on the other side of the screen?
Yeah, we hadn't talked much about the water side of stuff. I don't know if that's anything y'all are interested in, but I got a guy that I could recommend. His name's Kevin Duramus. He was the chief of a all EMS organization. I know. Wait, just a second. But in that, they built a special operations program to, help retention and all the things that go along with that. And he's kind of been a guy that I've watched and come up under on the water side. And he recently retired from what he was doing, and he took on a section chief job for TDM. So his name's Kevin Duramus. I could probably get you his contact and see if he would come on. But just a wealth of knowledge, huge leadership guy. Like I said, he's got a big job now, so he might be a little hard to get a hold of. But definitely one of those guys that I think would be a wealth of knowledge to listen to for a little while.
And I mean, I'm all for that. Like I said, like I told you when you were reaching out to me, every third Monday I want to highlight something special operations. It don't have to be rope, it don't have to be confined space. Something in the special operations field, because I think that's the most underappreciated part of the fire service. In my point, I mean, you see it at FDNY, but you don't see any other departments really tech rescue unless it's a task force or something like that. So that's my big thing, is I want to highlight the tech rescue people, because they are special. You know, some fire departments don't want to say it, but at the end of the day, when it comes to a scenario like y'all had, is any Joe Blow fireman gonna know how to use the equipment, how to do the equipment, and how to rig and take care of that, or are you gonna call that guy that actually has knowledge on that
That's
situation?
right, man. Special equipment, special training, and special people, and it's different, right? Like my little brother works at this station where I work, right? And he's an ordinary ops fireman and proud of it. You know, like we just went a little bit different in our careers, right? I fell in love with special operations thing, and like he's fit as a fiddle and likes working out, but like all the craziness, like and that's okay. You need those guys too. Like I,
Right.
there was a guy on scene that I've kind of laughed with. Like he's an ordinary ops guy. He's an engine company guy through and through. Been in the fire service for a long time, and he handled the logistical side of it for us, and did all the other stuff, and was in my ear the whole time. Like, hey man, I need when these guys get on the ground, I need Chick-fil-A, like all of it here, and I need a couple of ambulances to transport these people. And so, I mean, and in the same capacity, like I reach out to him on a regular basis. I got a triple company house. He's, I'll call him like, hey, we're going to be out of service for a while. Like, you good with that? And he's like, yeah, man, we got it, like, so it's all a huge organization that works together, right? And if we don't have those other pieces that are willing to at least help us out a little bit, we're not going to be able to take the time to go train, So, like I said, we get a bad rap sometimes in special operations for going and being last out all day, but I'll take that. And it kind of pays off in situations like we had, right? Like when you have a big call, like you can kind of look at it over them like, I told you we needed a couple of minutes here and there, So.
I laugh because we actually had a structure fire last night. I was fighting one at 4:30 this morning actually, and I was on my rescue one, and we're going to the scene. And everybody kind of messes with us because we're still not scared of fire. We love fire. Me and my captain, we're one of those that it don't matter how hot it is, we're gonna go play and we're gonna go do our job. And you can see it in the chief's eyes, and when they see rescue one show up, they know they have somebody that's gonna go do their job, and they're gonna get to it. I mean, no matter what you give us, we're gonna get to it. And I mean, it talks a lot about my captain right there, and it talks a lot about our crew that he has built. But that's the good thing about special operations folks. Yes, we love this tech side, but we're still firefighters at the end of the day. We still like to smoke, we still like to eat, and we like to get after it. So, man, like I said, I couldn't be more appreciative of you coming on here. And I hope your story keeps going out. I know it's been all across the world, but y'all gave us so many lessons to learn from. Y'all gave us the image to recreate if we ever have something similar, and y'all set that standard at a very high standard. And so, man, awesome job, awesome crew, and I've got something for you coming in the mail. I'm gonna send it to you. You'll get a Lieutenant Stache
Cool.
little keychain.
Yeah.
It ain't much, but man, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an honor to do it. It's fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, buddy.